Warden, Melody of the Undergrowth is an adventure game from Cardboard Keep. It might remind you a little of The Legend of Zelda in some ways, but it has its advantages because while The Legend of Zelda is only on Nintendo, this is available for the PC and, it's a lot more open and available. It does have the Breath of the Wild's latest features where weapons do break, but weapons are quite frequent, so it's not really the end of the world if they do break, but you do end up with the whole I want to save this better weapon for maybe a boss or a harder enemy, and maybe you won't use it as much where you really should have just used it and had fun with it. It's too good to use syndrome, which is a bit of a negative on the weapons, but it's not the end of the world. They do break fairly quickly, but again, you can find the decent weapons easily enough if you keep your eye out for them, so it's easy enough to sort out. Now, the game took me about 11 hours to complete. Now, it may take you longer or shorter depending on how you play and how much difficulty you have with the bosses and areas. I basically went straight through, got only the minimum notes I needed to open the new areas and to progress through the game and defeat the bosses. I got lost a little bit and I solved one riddle, but I didn't really sit down and try to solve all of the riddles and puzzles in the game, and there are a lot of riddles and side areas and lore to find and extras to go through, so there is a lot of additional playability left in the game from the 11 hours that I've played through. Now, bear in mind that there are quite a few glitches, and I abused some of the glitching to get around some of the physics and puzzles in the main areas, so that is a negative. But, it's also a positive if you're a speedrunner, because being able to break the game and to go around physics like that may also be beneficial to speedrunners. But there are times where I'm going to call it the momentum fling, is a negative, and the three main areas where this happens and you're going to really detriment the game are when you come out of the windmill, because any surface that isn't perfectly flat, if there's a sloped surface and you've got a thin surface, a sloped surface, it thinks you're trying to get around somewhere and cheats. So if you're walking on a sloped surface for too long, or you jump on a sloped surface, the game will actively throw you away. And outside the windmill, it's got a major pit to death, and then there's another area where lava is rising after you've activated the furnace, and you have to jump onto a pipe that's just a little too high. It's at the highest end of your jump, and because it's a rounded surface, if you don't land perfectly on top of it, you're going to start slipping back down. If you jump 3 times, sometimes it's 2, if it's not, it's definitely the 3rd, and it will fling you away and into the lava, and that again will kill you. And then the third area is in the grove, where there's poison and you're jumping around some surfaces. There's some rocks that aren't so well flat, they're slippery surfaces again, and whilst you're trying to navigate around that, it'll decide to fling you off into the poison and die. And they're the main ones with that glitch. The other glitch in the grove that I found was where I had deactivated the poison. I went backwards to go through one of the other gates that I'd seen blocked off with poison and thought, well, I'll go through that after being flung into the poison via the momentum fling. I thought, well, I'm just going to go a different way. And it turns out that wasn't meant to have been activated yet. I wasn't supposed to be able to go through to that area, I guess, even though I did destroy the poison. And as a result, once I left that area into the next area, I ended up spawning under the poison. Now, thankfully, they had accepted that I'd gone through and didn't instantly kill me, because that could have soft-locked the game with a permanent death. And I would have never been able to get out of the room if it was instant death, and that would have been very bad. But it took me a while to figure out, well, I mean, I can't progress in this area, I have to go back and do something, because I could get out onto the mushrooms and get just above the level of poison, but there was a fire inside the poison, and if I traversed too far into the room, it meant that I died instantly. So, just a few glitches that were here and there. Other than that though, 11 hours of gameplay for the £15, it's not bad. It's a reasonable price for the fun, and there's a lot more to explore, like I said, and if you're a completionist, there's all the browsers to light in all the areas, and they've shown that sometimes unlocks places, so it might unlock more secret areas. There's a lot of hats to collect that are hidden about, and they hint, when I did a side quest with the witch, that perhaps they might have other uses. And on top of that, there is the hat area where you store the hats, and I guess that maybe that opens somewhere. And if you compare this to then Majora's Mask, maybe collecting all the hats gives you access to one final hat, and who knows what that does. But there are the 3 forms which you can find, and depending on who you are, the actual conversations with the characters in the world do change. So that is a good touch that they've added, and that could also add to replayability if you want to replay through as all of the different characters and get all of the different perspectives on the encounters in the world. And I mainly played through as Bit, who seemed to have issues with Neona, even though the story is you've been brought back from Neona to save the undergrowth and the forests, because she's nature and humanity is encroaching on her, and they kidnapped her, and then that's why the Mudmen are uprising. But it's up to you how you actually take the story, and at the end there is a choice where you can make a decision on who to side with for the final boss. The trouble is, everything in the game is global, so once you've completed an event, you've opened a shortcut, you've lit a brazier, you've completed a puzzle, it's globally stored. Now, when you defeat the boss and complete the game, it's global. You've made your decision, it's done. If you try and go into the boss area again to try and look at the other ending perhaps, and see what would have been different if you chose the other way, you just end up in a black screen that you can't even press escape to bring up the menu, because the game doesn't know how to handle it. Globally, you've completed that room, so it doesn't load in the instance of the room, it's deleted the entire room. So if you go in there, the game just can't handle it. So hopefully that will be programmed out now that I will point it out in this review. But as it stands, that is a downside, that you would have to play through the entire game again to actually be able to see the other ending. So it would be nice if they could fix that, but I'm not going to blame it for that. The other thing that I would like to change would be the ancient text translation. I'm going to refer to Final Fantasy X here, because they had it right, in my opinion, in the way that it worked. As you went round the world and you discovered the letter translations, it actually stored into your character's memory, and they actually learnt it so that when the text scenes and the cutscenes spoke in Albers, Saikdandra Albed Makiko, master the Albed language. And yeah, because of that you could learn Albed, even learn it properly. But the character learns it, it's highlighted in blue, the letters that have been changed and the letters that haven't are in white, and you could essentially put together what the missing letters were, even if you hadn't found them in the world, and that worked pretty well. The downside is, with this, yes, there are riddles and puzzles that maybe involve the ancient language, which is symbolic, so I couldn't even speak it to you even if I knew it. The problem is that there are hidden characters to sense, which maybe they are wardens that were rejected by Nyona, or turned against her, or just failed in their quests, and they're dark spirits now that you can sense around the world. They speak to you in this ancient text with a big text box that stays on screen for a little while, but they're global instances as well. Unlike other enemies that do respawn, once you've defeated the sense demons, for lack of a better word, they're deleted from the world completely, and they bring a text box up at one time. Maybe you're going to be, oh well, it's wiki age where everyone has to know everything already and go to wiki and read what it said rather than actually play the game and enjoy the game to experience it. And that's the negative, because it would be nice if you could get the translation as you learnt them from the glyphs in the world and be able to go with it, because there's no instance where these sense demons are even referred to by anyone. You go through the entire game and no one seems to mention this side quest with these sense demons, and there are areas that I haven't explored and things that I haven't done and riddles and puzzles I haven't solved, but I stumbled across them by accident. I saw sense appear up, I tried it, and then this thing said something, I was like, I don't know, and it attacked me, and I was like, what? Maybe they're warning of Neona, maybe they're warning against going against Neona, maybe they're saying, what Neona's new world will be, who knows? Maybe it's something to do with the hats, because, it's hinted that the hats could do something. Maybe you have to wear a specific hat with a specific character with a specific weapon in hand, and maybe they even suggest that in further riddle form in the text. Who knows? I can't translate it. And, I'm not screenshotting it and then looking up wiki translations of the symbols to find out what they said, and that's the downside, because I would like to just know in the game what they said from all of the symbols that I found, and I found enough symbols that perhaps I could understand for the most part and translate anything else I haven't found. So that's just one thing that I would have liked differently. All in all, though, it's a fun game and a fun experience, and like I said, there's a lot of side quests that I haven't done and things that I haven't explored. And there's a mysterious door in the sewers as well that I'm sure there's got to be a way to open, but maybe that involves wearing specific hats, or, maybe that's the Temple of the Dark Demons, and if you solve the demon side quest rather than vanquishing them from the world, it opens up. Who knows? But different characters do have their own powers, and, they lead to further secrets and areas, and Tavian Sling can be glitched and used a bit, so you don't actually need to go to the slingshot looking point if you can get on level with the button that you have to hit and just essentially use the attack while looking. You can fire the slingshot without actually going up to the point and activate the puzzles, and that can skip some puzzles as well. So maybe the developers didn't quite intend that, but after being slung off some edges a few too many times with not so nice physics, I felt that, glitching it a bit was okay by me. But all in all, I've had fun with it, and it's definitely worth the money. So if you're considering a purchase and you like Zelda but you don't have a Nintendo, then this is definitely the game for you. And by buying it, you're pretty much hoping, I can't say guaranteeing, but you're encouraging the developer to make sequels and more games of this nature. And, I always encourage that. Go support your developers that you enjoy their games and go buy it and play it for yourself and have fun. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.